Okay. First off, I want to thank Chris Justice, our host. I want to thank Cookie Billings, my chief of staff, and the person who gets us organized leading into the Zoom formation calls. And then also Sean Patty, who we never see, but he's always in the background doing all the tech work and making this look so good. So thank you to all three of you for all of your efforts. We are coming off of an incredible Zone Summit and Leadership Seminar Week in Pittsburgh for Zones 33 and 34. I know that many of you attended. I have heard really pretty fantastic feedback from the week, and appreciate the dozens and dozens, the scores of people who produced that week and made that happen. It was a tremendous team effort. We were in a great venue that was big enough to hold us, but small enough to make all of the meeting spaces really accessible. Gorgeous views of downtown Pittsburgh. We had incredible weather through the week. If there was rain, I missed it. And a couple of the days earlier in the week, it was touching against the 80, 75, 80 degrees. Just amazing for Pittsburgh. And in late October, we had a great World Polio Day. The first day of Zone Summit was our World Polio Day. We raised over $22,000 for End Polio Now, which was incredible. We had an End Polio Now walk right by the river, right on the riverside, that was led by the Polio Torch that had been traveled its way from South Florida up to Pittsburgh through most of our districts. It was the torch from the Atlanta Convention in 2017, so that was a nice touch. And then we had a great live stream event that was viewed all across the world. We had Stephanie Yurchik, our president, of course. We had Dr. Peter Salk, an eminent doctor in his own right, but son of Jonas Salk, founder of the vaccine, the polio vaccine there in Pittsburgh. We also had John Germ and Mike McGovern, who, of course, have been at the forefront representing Rotary in our polio efforts for years. So it was just a great World Polio Day. We took full advantage of that being the first day of our summit. We had a great service project, Sleep in Heavenly Peace, which provides beds to children, in this case in the Pittsburgh area, who do not have beds. And there are many more of these children than you might expect. We raised $25,000 in that effort and built 100 beds right there on site, had all the components for those beds. So really, really cool, heartwarming event that was. We had new wrinkles in our programming. Rotary Service Project Shark Tank. That was really cool, where 3 of 12 submitted, or 3 actually of 15 submitted district projects were featured. Those of us who were sharks, we weren't really trying to tear them down like they do on the TV show, but helping them refine their pitches. And I saw that all 3 of those districts attracted attention from people who were there in the audience, and I'm quite sure attracted new partners for what they're doing going forward with their projects. Our past district governor forum had a little bit different format this year, which included a bar that was open in the middle of it. That seemed to go over well. We had 170 in attendance at the past district governor forum, which I understand is quite good compared to the past. We had a Mad Hatter tea party, and we had a whiskey tasting with our 2 whiskey experts, past district governor George Robertson Burnett from Zone 34 and past district governor Ron Napier from Zone 33, both experts in whiskey. So both of those events were fun. And just to give you an idea of the energy throughout the week, we had a Kalulu wall, which is where people can upload their photos that they may be taking during the event. We had over 15,000 photos that were uploaded. Just incredible. And we have those now assembled online where you can see those. So really a great event. We're already looking forward to 2025. You're going to hear from General Chair Marcy Ullum about our 2025 summit a little bit later in this broadcast. So really, really good stuff we had in Pittsburgh, and already looking forward to Jacksonville, Florida for next year. Now, since we last got together for this Zoom formation call, The board of directors has gotten together for a typical mid-October board meeting. This was actually the week before the Pittsburgh Summit. I'm a liaison to three committees, but one of them is the membership committee. And the membership committee had a good bit of proposals for the board. Most of those related to Rotaract. So I thought I would let you know a couple of the decisions from there. One of those was that we have set a Rotaract membership goal of 125,000 Rotaractors by July 1st, 2030. Now you might say to yourself, whoa, I thought we had over 200,000 Rotaractors. And we did until we started billing them. And even billing university-based Rotaractors at $5 a year and community-based Rotaractors at $8 a year purged those roles after a couple of billing cycles. And we're down to about 116,000 Rotaractors. And I say that tongue in cheek because really with no dues over time, there was little incentive to clean up Rotaract rosters. So we feel like we have a good working number now of 116,000 Rotaractors and a goal of 125,000 over the next 5 years or so. There has been a Grow Rotaract operational plan that probably most of you didn't know about, but it's up for renewal going forward. It's done in 3-year blocks. And so there were a few relatively minor policy changes there to try to strengthen the collaboration between Rotary clubs and Rotaract clubs, and also some suggestions to help smooth the transition in membership as folks may want to go from Rotaract club membership to Rotary club membership. Rotary Club Central now will allow Rotaract clubs to enter, to plan and to track their goals. So that is something new with Rotary Club Central that occurred in the first quarter of this Rotary year. And also now Rotaract clubs are able to enter their information for the Rotaract Club Excellence Award right through Rotary Club Central. Before that functionality was not there. So that's been added to Rotary Club Central. And the Club Excellence Award is what we used to call the Presidential Citation, but it's now known as a Club Excellence Award. Let's see, the board also elected trustees for next year. So Vicki Pulitz, who some of you may know from the West Coast, was elected as a trustee. Also, Katz Tatsuno from Japan was elected as a trustee, and Stephanie Yurchik was elected to become a trustee. They'll start July 1 of 25, and that will be a 4-year term through 2029. The trustees are 15 of them, so we elect those to 4-year terms, 4, 4, 4, and then 3 to make 15. So this was the year where only 3 trustees were elected. But those will be your 3 new trustees for next year. Let's see. I also want to mention that since our last time we got together in October, Rotary Club Central has come out with a pretty significant revamp. The big things that you'll see there are that the first 6 goals listed in Rotary Club Central for clubs to enter are now multi-year goals. They're 3-year goals. And this is a not so subtle nudge toward our concept of continuity of leadership, that we should be working with our predecessors, with our successors, to understand that to reach goals that are meaningful, it's usually going to be a multi-year process. So those of you who go into Rotary Club Central, you'll see that change. You'll also see that those the first 6 goals in there are really heavily aligned with Rotary's action plan, and they're bolded, they're highlighted so that you can't miss them. The first 6 being the most important 6, I guess you could say. So I'm going to turn to our disaster recovery fund. This is something I introduced a month ago. At that point, Hurricane Helene had really been devastating. You know the path that it took, going right up the East Coast inland. And at that point, Hurricane Milton was about a day and a half out from making landfall. So we are doing something new. Our zones are organized as a 501c3 organization. That's a qualified charitable organization. And as such, we can distribute support within the U.S. So following Helene and of course now Milton, we set up this disaster recovery fund. And I said then that our meager goal was 500,000 and that the aspirational goal was 750,000. I aimed too low, obviously, because as of this morning, from almost 1,500 donors, we have received $742,482. Just incredible outpouring. We have received five-figure checks from multiple clubs across the United States who we don't know, just people who um, recognize the situation here that these two hurricanes have created, who want to support us. There was one that came in today from the South San Francisco Rotary Club for $10,000. Even a club in Hawaii, right in the middle of the fire devastation they experienced last year, sent us a donation. Just incredible, the donations coming in, and we know of more donations coming. Now, that is a lot of money that we have received, and I will promise you we will need all of it based on the type of devastation that these two storms have laid down. 2 weeks ago today, on October 21st, we provided grant application forms, our grant making policy, and the stewardship expectations. Those were sent out to district leaders. Grants are available up to $25,000 per project, and the districts are responsible for reviewing the proposed club projects, submitting the grant applications to the zone or zones, and then reporting each project as it is completed. So up to $25,000 per project. This functions a little bit like a district grant in the sense we're asking the districts to do the vetting process, to sign off that this is a legitimate and a best use kind of situation for that the club is proposing, and then to take care of collecting receipts and the good stewardship practices there, all subject to review by our zones. 5 grant applications were received late-ish, mid to late last week, and all 5 were approved on Friday. And so at this point, just shy of $40,000 is on the way to District 7670, that's Western North Carolina, to help their clubs, help their communities. And an additional 10 grant applications were submitted over this past weekend, and they're under review now. So I want you all, especially those of you all who are donors, to know we're doing our best to get this money out to our communities, to help Rotary volunteers and our partner volunteers to supplement and to amplify their efforts, to help them do the very most that they can to help their communities recover from the devastation that these hurricanes left. Now, in addition to our zones disaster recovery grants that we're making, the Rotary Foundation also has a disaster fund that is made available. After these hurricanes, that fund received a lot of donations. It was basically empty when the hurricanes hit. But since then, 7 of our districts have applied for and have been approved for $25,000 disaster recovery grants. This is in addition to what our zones are doing. So I think really in the best of Rotary traditions, Rotarian and Rotaract volunteers are getting out there and addressing their community needs, and both the Rotary Foundation and our zones are able to support them with these grants so that they can do even more. And speaking of Rotarians and Rotaractors getting after it, there'll be a large packing event on Thursday of this week. 80 volunteers will come together to break down, assemble by county, and then prepare for shipment to those counties disaster relief kits. And a lot of these supplies have been sent to us by Shelter Box USA. Also, Zone 30, Jill Petrozinski specifically has arranged for over 1,000 water filtration kits with sanitary 5-gallon buckets to allow people to be able to make their own clean water. That will be part of the pack. So there's a huge effort going on that day. Stephanie Yurchik will be there as our president. and the president of ShelterBox USA is flying in to be a part of that. So will be a big event. Let's see here. I do want to give you a quick update on membership, and then we're going to move on to our primary topic today of Rotary Foundation. So at this point, zones 33 and 34 continue to be #1 and #2 in North America for membership. At this point combined, we are up about 1,000 members on the year. Now, that sounds wonderful, I know, but I will tell you that both zones are behind the success track, which the success track just leads to a modest 0.5% growth at the end of the year. So yes, we're up 1,000 members, which is great, but we know that the December drop-off is coming, that we will lose a lot of members in advance of the January billing. At this point, we know there are hundreds of clubs in our 2 zones, hundreds of clubs who have not attracted a single member yet this year. So despite the fact we're #1 and 2 in North America, those of you who are district leaders, especially governors, governors-elect, membership chairs, it's definitely time to let your club leaders know that we've got to turn on our membership attraction machine and get that going, because as good as it feels to be up 1,000 members, we know that we've got a big drop-off coming. So just mention that as an aside. As I mentioned, Rotary Foundation is our primary topic today. It is Rotary Foundation Month in Rotary, very special month. And we are very fortunate to have Larry Lunsford with us today. Now, he's a great friend to our zones. Many of you got to spend time with him in Pittsburgh. He's been a frequent speaker in most of our districts. I know he's speaking in Zone 33 twice just this month. So he's very well known, but I will share he is our paired trustee. Trustees and directors are paired together, and really fortunate to have a friend and a mentor like Larry to be our paired trustee. Feel very fortunate about that. So Larry, I'm going to turn the program over to you to share some thoughts about the Rotary Foundation.
Patrick, dear friend, thank you so very much. I'm incredibly grateful to be able to participate with you today. The schedule doesn't always allow that, but I'm happy and grateful that in Rotary Foundation Month, that opportunity does exist. I've taken the opportunity to scroll through here on my computer screen, and I see so many dear friends who are in great service to Rotary and the Rotary Foundation, and I see some new friends that perhaps we've never had a chance to meet. I come to you from Missouri, from Kansas City, and got a little bit of a dreary day today, but hopefully it firms up before another one of the connections that we have, which is the Monday night football game tonight with the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there may be certainly some folks from Florida and maybe some Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans on this call. And I'm grateful to you to listen, even in spite of the fact that I'm a Chiefs fan. I do appreciate that very much. I'm honored to be paired with Patrick in paired leadership. And I am one of the 3 trustees who is finishing their 4-year term. I'm in my 4th and final year. Patrick did a nice job of outlining the board's decision to replace the 3 trustees that do end their terms this year with those new trustees that he listed. Chairman Mark Maloney, myself as the vice chair, and Akira Miki from Japan are the 3 trustees who will be leaving the board on June 30, 2025. I want to pick up where Patrick primarily left off with that outstanding summary of the outstanding service from Rotarians all around the world to help with the disaster recovery and disaster relief. Simply to say that we maintain at the Rotary Foundation global level a real focus on especially in these times and especially in this moment, that we are actively requesting funds be donated to the General Disaster Response Fund of the Rotary Foundation. You heard Patrick mention 7 grants that have been made to areas in your two zones from the General Disaster Response Fund. Unfortunately, I need to add to that on Friday afternoon, I got an email indicating that the funds in our General Disaster Response Fund with the Rotary Foundation have been fully depleted. So that's an indication of the amount of these kinds of disasters that are going on around the world. And so at some level, I'm sorry to say that, but I say that with, in the same breath, the fact that we actively solicit donations to to the uh, to the General Disaster Response Fund. And having been in Pittsburgh at your summit last week and hearing so many of those stories, certainly our hearts are with you. Let me quickly provide just some updates, perhaps in the same train of thought as Patrick did for you, coming out of his board of directors meeting the week before his board of directors met. The Board of Trustees had its October meeting, one of its 4 meetings through the year. And I'll just briefly highlight some of the things that are, I think, topical to you, and perhaps will whet the appetite for the upcoming breakout sessions. And in an effort to be brief, I will move through those very quickly. First of all, beyond the conversation we've just had with the disaster response, let me provide just a quick update on our polio eradication efforts, because I know each person on this ZoomFormation call follows that Thursday email that comes each week to see where we stand with our polio eradication efforts. And so those that do know that we now are at 64 cases of the wild polio virus in this year, 41 in Pakistan and 23 in Afghanistan, which is a higher amount than we've seen since about 2020. And friends, it just simply highlights the ebbs and flows of trying to work through challenging geographical circumstances and challenging political circumstances. The key that you need to take away and share with your club members is the fact that the biggest challenge that we're seeing in our resolve to finish this eradication effort is in Afghanistan at the moment with the Taliban, where they have changed a recent decision to allow us to go house to house with the vaccinations. And they have temporarily changed that to mosque to mosque. And that is the difference, end of story. When we're able to go house to house, no matter where we've been over the last 40 years, that's when we see the most significant positive results. And now we're in a mosque to mosque circumstance with the government, continuing to work with them. There's also another thing that's happening, and that's the movement of population between Pakistan and Afghanistan, which is often happening. And you've heard before, I'm sure, that we have polio eradication efforts going on at the border between those two countries. But there is a heightened population movement right now between those two countries, which is also providing challenges. So therefore, and again, I'm just giving you a couple of 3 takeaways regarding our eradication efforts. Certainly thankful for each of your clubs and districts and zones' financial support of the eradication effort always. But we have been in a 2022 to 2026 global strategy for polio eradication, and that has recently been extended by a year. So we were in a mode, friends, where we were hoping to eradicate the wild polio virus by the end of 24, 2-year certification, no more wild polio by the end of 2026. That has been extended 1 year. Right now, you'll need to relay to your club members and districts that that strategy has been extended on the wild polio virus by 1 year, hoping that we will eradicate the wild polio virus by the end of 2025, and with certification, celebrate at the end of 2027. And then along the journey, so 2025 for 2027 on the wild polio virus. Also, the circulating variant type 2 polio virus, we're also tackling and looking to eradicate. That timeline is now by the end of 2026 to be certified by the end of 2029. So I hope that that provides a quick update for you on where we collectively stand with our polio eradication efforts. One of the other comments I wanted to make very quickly regards our peace centers. of which these two zones are perhaps at the height of zones who are participants and really engaged with Peace Centers. We did approve the next class of Peace Fellows 3 weeks ago at the October trustees meeting, very proudly so. So you'll have that new cohort coming to Duke UNC or UNC Duke, depending upon your perspective. And we'll have that group coming to you very soon. We had more applications than we've ever had. This is such a competitive fellowship. And so we're very proud of the fellows that have just recently been named. Additionally, I know many of you, most of you, perhaps all of you are following this, but we are also in a growth plan with the feeling we have about our Peace Centers program. And of course, we have the 5 two-year master's degree partnerships, including Duke UNC or UNC Duke. And we also are growing the 1-year certificate program. We currently have one of those programs in Uganda, about to open the second in Turkey. We are months away. At our February trustee meeting, we will select the next Peace Center for the 1-year certificate program, which will either be in India or Korea. We're down to a university in each of those 2 countries. And then we have Latin America waiting. So the growth plan I mentioned, friends, is about 5 years ago, the trustees said, we love the Peace Centers program. We want to grow it to 4 other areas of the world: Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Latin America. At the time, we had Chulalongkorn in Asia. We've had to terminate the relationship there, which is why we're looking right now and actively in search right now for the newest Peace Center in Asia. Along the way, we've created the one in Uganda and the one in Turkey. So we're shortly going to be 3/4 of the way to accomplishing that growth plan. And we're very, very excited about that. We've been working on a new program over the last 4 years called Programs of Scale. And we have made 3 of those 4 commitments: $2 million grant from the World Fund, from all of our donations to the Rotary Foundation, has been made to 3 projects in Africa. And last year, we approved a project in India. So at our April meeting upcoming, we will be approving the 5th Program of Scale effort. The only other comment I'll make about this, in this exciting new development, we're taking our global grant structure and trying to expand it. And I made the comment, friends, in Pittsburgh at your summit, I can't tell you how impressive it is that your 2 zones scanned your best projects, surfaced them, and had this Shark Tank effort in Pittsburgh with 3 particular projects. You've done what the Rotary world has done, what the Rotary Foundation has done. We scanned the entire geography of the world and found the best grant project opportunities. You've done the same thing, and I just think it was fantastic. So we're excited about the Programs of Scale activity. The last thing I'll say to you very quickly there is that first Program of Scale that was to end malaria in many geographic regions of Zambia started as a $2 million World Fund grant that was matched, and we didn't expect it, $2 million by the Gates Foundation and $2 million by World Vision. So out of the gate, that was a $6 million project, which was wonderful in terms of what we're trying to achieve with Programs of Scale. However, 3 years in, the Gates Foundation came to us and said, we have another $10 million, Rotary, if you'll match it. World Vision did as well. That effort has now become a $30 million project over 4 countries in Africa regarding malaria prevention. Extremely proud of that. At our trustees meeting in October, we always have a look at the stewardship elements and making sure that those grant and dollars that you so graciously donate and trust the Rotary Foundation with are handled appropriately. And so we had our standard look at our stewardship efforts. And we also were pleased to learn, we haven't announced this yet. It usually gets announced more publicly, maybe in January, but we have received from Charity Navigator for the 16th year in a row their highest rating of 4 stars, which is just fantastic and hopefully allows you to stand firm with those that you deal with as leaders in zones 33 and 34 with knowing that they can believe and trust in the Rotary Foundation. Charity Navigator, 16 years in a row. I expect we'll talk a little bit more. I have two more things to say. And the first is that we'll probably talk a little bit more about DDF rollover in the breakout session. But at the October meeting, as we are all working toward trying to utilize some of the oldest DDF, these two zones not nearly at the same level of that than many zones around the world are. But nonetheless, we are using as best we can and encouraging the use of DDF because that's the intent of the donor, to have that money spent on our great programs. So we've enabled that process a little bit more. Maybe perhaps we'll leave that to later in the breakout and maybe as we come out of the breakout. But we have, as we're in year 4 of a 5-year plan to try to encourage DDF rollover spending, the trustees did take a decision in that regard. Finally, and I realize at some level that this may provide a little bit of embarrassment to our director and colleague and our leader. We all know how he approaches his Rotary service, and we're inspired by it. But I do want to mention and thank, since it is Rotary Foundation Month, to thank each one of you for your continued commitment, both in service and financially, to the Rotary Foundation. And many of you have done that at significant levels. And recently, we have, as we work toward this Rotary Foundation endowment, we have had your director, Patrick, and his wife, Kristen Eakes, join the Arch Clump Society. And I did want to publicly mention that. I hope that Patrick will still be friends with me since I've done that somewhat publicly, but that's just such a tremendous commitment. And it's an example of what we're trying to do here with our Rotary Foundation endowment. And I'm happy to share with you finally the status of our 2025 by 2025 campaign as of the end of September, where we are now, as we approach the goal of 2.025 billion in net assets and commitments. You see on this slide, the combined total of those net assets and commitments at the end of September was $1.85 billion. And for the first time, that bar on the right, our commitments in estates and trusts and wills, is over $1 billion for the first time. So as I say often, the Rotary Foundation is certainly not the largest foundation around the world, but we're certainly not among the smallest either. And there's a tremendous scale. There's a tremendous energy toward this first campaign with our endowment, and with donors like yourself and extended additional commitments like those that Patrick has just made. It's a privilege to serve alongside you. I'm grateful again to have had the chance to be with you here today. I hope that I've provided some brief bullet point updates that are good for note taking that you can take back to your clubs and districts. And I'm honored to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Larry. That's awesome news on many counts, and thank you very much for those important updates. It is now my pleasure to introduce Marcy Ullum. I think most of you guys know Marcy pretty well, but for those of you that don't, Marcy is a past district governor. She has also served as a Rotary coordinator. She has been the chair of the Florida Pets organization, which is no small job. And she is certainly very experienced with the zone summits. She has served as programs chair, and she's been a district governor nominee, district governor elect, learning facilitator, probably more times than she wants to count. So she is here to talk to us today about the 2025 Zone Summit. So I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Marcy.
Thanks, Chris. I just want to say, everybody, can you take that picture off, Chris?
No, we're going to leave that up for the rest of the session. No.
You're going to leave that up for the rest of the session? Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, thanks so much. I just want to point out, I did not send any of that to Chris, so he must have actually done some research, and I appreciate that. So as I was scrolling through the little tiles, I saw a lot of you at Pittsburgh. And I hope you had as good a time as I did, because it was really one of the best summits that I've ever been to. I really had a great time. It was high energy, it was high value, and yes, it was high calorie. And for those of you who were there, you know that cookie table is going to be hard to beat. But Team Jax is looking to do just that and is inviting you to beautiful Jacksonville, Florida. So I want you to mark your calendars, because we are about 5 weeks earlier than we've been in the last 3 or 4 years. The leadership seminar is September 10 and 11, and then the actual summit is 11 to 14. Now, you may not know a lot about Jacksonville, because it's probably not, other than the Jaguars, of course, I want to point those out. But, you know, you think of Miami, or you think of Florida, you think of Orlando, you think of Miami, you think of Naples. But Jacksonville is the largest city by area in the continental US. And it's also the most populous city in Florida, which is kind of interesting. It outranks Miami. They have over 80,000 acres of urban park systems. It is the #1 deep water port in the Southeast. And for you golfers, it is a golfer's paradise. And that not only Jacksonville, but the surrounding areas. And heck, for those of you who are runners, Marshall might even do one of his special city runs, and you'll get to put that on Facebook about that you ran one of the streets in Jacksonville with Marshall as well. So we're going to be staying at the Hyatt Regency Jacksonville Riverfront, which, as its name notes, is on the St. Johns River. It is a beautiful hotel. And I will tell you, Patrick and I negotiated hard, and we have great rates that max at $176 a night. So there are rates below that. Of course, that doesn't include taxes and all that, bed nights or bed rates, but you can always upgrade, and the upgrades are really pretty reasonable. But we are working to make it very affordable for all of you to come. I want to let you know who's on the team, because the team is really who makes these things happen. Returning as our seminar leader is Jeanette Loftus. Returning as our program chair is Marshall Butler. So you can know, with those two folks in those lead positions, we're going to have a really good time. Chris Justice is also returning as our very creative production chair. And then other folks who are going to be, some returning, like Lad Waldo, who I saw in here. Lad is returning as our treasurer. He's making sure we know where all the dollars and cents are. Tracy Loftus is joining us as the registrar. Troy Willingham will be running logistics. Barbara Goby is our marketing chair. Renee Laws is arrangements. Jack Cohen is our hotel liaison. And Beth Trotter is our operations chair. So I know you all want to know what to expect. And I'd like to point out, we just finished the 24 summit. But we've been having discussions about events and activities. Marshall already has a full list of potential speakers, and I know that there are some really good names on that you'll want to see. There's also some really interesting options in Jacksonville. They have a great craft beer scene. It's known for its food trucks, believe it or not. And of course, we'll be continuing to build that out. Now, I think Chris or maybe Patrick early on, somebody said something about the breakout that I would be talking to you. Correction, I'm going to be listening to you. A couple of years ago, when I was the programs chair, I had a couple of PDG focus groups to listen to what it was that you want. I will tell you, out of those discussions, we implemented some things last year in Nassau, and Marshall has just built on that this past year. So if you have great ideas about what you want to see, PDGs, I know there's a lot of DG line on here, but PDGs, we've invested a lot, and you've invested a lot in this organization over the years. We'd love to see you at our Zone Summit. So please join me if you have time. Of course, talking to Patrick and talking to Larry. I understand those are key. But if you have ideas for the summit you'd like to share, you can always just email me or get in touch with any of these folks that I've mentioned if you happen to know them. We've got lots of planning to do, so I hope to hear from you soon, like in the next couple of months. And I look forward to seeing you all in Jacksonville next September.
All right. Thanks so much, Marcy. I will try to get you unspotlighted now. All right. So right before we get you off to your breakouts, I want to talk about some of the upcoming important events. We have our membership action plan session that's coming up on November 11th at 5:30. This is webinar format, so you do need to go ahead and get registered for that. So you'll get your link and you can register for that. You'll find the link on DACDB. Foundation, that group is meeting once a month as well, which is awesome. November 21st is the next one at 6 p.m. Also can find registration on DACDB. Public image, we always have really insightful public image material. I think the last one we had close to 350 folks in October to learn so much more about Canva. This November, or this month rather, on the 26th at 6 p.m., we're going to be talking about how to integrate public image and use elements of the action plan. I have a couple of pretty well-known guests going to be in attendance for that one. Patrick and Marshall are going to be helping us out with that important event. All right, Calgary. I still have some time, I believe, to save a little bit of money on that. That's going to be our international convention coming up 21st through 25th of June. Definitely want to get registered for that event. All right, and as always, you want to make sure that you stay connected on our various social channels. We're pretty much on everything. So like, join, follow, and share. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the share here and get these breakouts open. Give me 2 seconds on that. All right, just a reminder to everyone, we have 3 choices. The way this is supposed to work is that as soon as I activate the breakouts, and I'm going to adjust the time a little bit. I think I can give you an extra couple of minutes. As soon as I open these breakouts, you're going to get 3 choices. You can go to Zone Summit. That's going to be hosted by Marcy. And as she said, you have plenty of opportunity to ask questions, make suggestions, volunteer. So definitely pop into Marcy's room and learn a little bit more about that and offer your suggestions. Larry Lunsford has agreed to hang on and answer your questions about Rotary Foundation, which is an awesome opportunity. We don't often get that kind of opportunity, so take advantage of it. And of course, with our potpourri or potluck, as it were, maybe, I don't know, Patrick, our director, has agreed to host a room with the director. So if you have any questions about what Patrick talked about, he can answer more questions about the disaster relief or any of the other topics he raised. Or if you just want to pop in and say hello, Patrick will be in the director's room. So I'm going to go ahead and open those. If you have difficulty getting into a room, hang on into the main room and I will try to put you in the breakout of your choice. All right, rooms are open.